Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of the show. And on this episode, I'm going to be talking about, dear God, it's Baby Geniuses. Yeah, sorry. The thing is, this is another one of those infamously bad movies that I knew I was going to have to talk about at some point, but I just kept putting it off and off and off, and now here we are. I actually remember when this movie came out in theaters because my neighbors went to go see it. And I remember the next day, and my neighbor he came over and he was talking to my parents. And I'll never forget, he was talking about how much he hated this movie and how bad the movie was. And I'll always remember it because he was just so emphatic about it. He was just like, it was the worst movie I've ever seen. And it was almost like he had gone mad with hate for the movie. Like he was laughing, like cackling about it. Like it was the worst movie. The thing was, he's always been just such a nice, welcoming, friendly person. So to see him like that, it just kind of burned into my brain because I was just so shocked. And I remember distinctly thinking to myself, just how bad could this movie be? I mean, it broke this man. So here we are, 20 years later, and I'm ready to face this thing myself. So cheers, Blair, because this one's for you. Baby Geniuses is one of the most confusing movies I've ever encountered, and I'm not just talking about the plot. I'm also confused as how this got made in the first place, why some of these actors agreed to be in it, and how it managed to make a profit. I mean, this movie made enough to warrant a sequel, which I will not be reviewing, by the way. I know a lot of times I say, oh, this movie is a sequel, I'm not going to review it. And then you ask me over and over again, Mark, come on, review the sequel. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll review it. No, not this time. No way. Absolutely not. In fact, you know what? If I was bored and rich, so in other words, if I was rich, I would pay people, like I would send people out into the world to find copies of Baby Geniuses and Baby Geniuses 2 and buy them and destroy them. But that would require just a ton of money. Totally off topic. Have you guys ever heard of Patreon? Anyways, the point I'm trying to make here is the movie made a lot of money, which maybe just goes to show how much more power marketing had when it came to selling a movie 20 years ago. I mean, back in 1999, we had the internet, but it wasn't the same as it is now. News and opinions can spread faster and wider than ever before. At the turn of the century, reviews and opinions on movies were spread by newspaper articles, at the movies, and word of mouth. These days, if a movie comes out this bad, word can spread pretty much instantly, and more people might hold off on going to see something that everyone says is terrible, unless you're like me and those are the only movies left that you still get excited for. Baby Geniuses starts off exactly as it should, with not really making much sense, as a baby is able to somehow escape from a heavily monitored underground facility and then beat up a bunch of adults. And I don't care that it's a family movie, as if that just excuses everything, and that doesn't make sense at all. They're trying to sell the illusion here of a high-tech company that conducts itself underground in a secret lab with security, cameras, guards, helicopters, and all of this is completely focused on the babies. And then just out of nowhere, one of these babies manages to escape, and suddenly everyone turns into half-wits. Anyways, Christopher Lloyd shows up, out of focus, which kind of sucks. I mean, it's the first shot introducing his character. So they take him back into the lab, and Dr. Heap turns on the exposition computer. I guess Baby Co. has created an indoor theme park, and here comes the doctor in charge of everything, Dr. Kinder. And you'll notice that a lot of this movie is dubbed. I mean, with the baby's voices, obviously, but even with the adults. Check this out. Who is saying thank you here? It's funny because this is one of the most boring movies I've ever seen, but there's so much that I want to see that happened off screen. I want to see the people working on these special effects. I want to see the table read with the cast. I want to see the pitch. I'm curious to see if at any point during this production, someone just casually said, yeah, this might be one of the worst movies ever made. So they open the theme park and there's all these rides and stuff, but then there's this robotic mascot that they say kids will love.
Give me Baby Bunting Boko. What's your name, little girl?
Aaron. My name is Aaron.
Oh, what a sweet name. Give Baby Bunting a big hug.
I'm pretty sure that would be disturbing to any child. So they put all the kids into a room and watch them. I guess this is to try and crack the baby talk code. The whole idea is that these baby geniuses know all the secrets of the universe somehow, and baby talk is a language that only they can understand, but as soon as they cross over into understanding and speaking human language, they forget all these secrets or something. None of this makes any sense. This whole idea of them losing this knowledge when they cross over into human language doesn't really add up because they can already understand the adults. They can understand what they're saying. So, in other words, they already understand the language. It took me 3 attempts to finish this movie because it was so boring. So I had to break it up into 3 separate viewing sessions, each at 30 minutes, because that's really all I could take at a time. And trust me, that was not without assistance. Because when you're watching something this boring, it feels like work, just, trying to pay attention. It's like that scene in Clockwork Orange. Like, please, stop. Just end this movie. It's not just that it's boring and that you're not being entertained. You actually feel like you're just sitting there wasting away. You start contemplating all the other things you could have been doing with your time. I'm sorry, guys. Usually I would like to think that most of the time I'm pretty fair, wouldn't you say? But with this, there's really no, this is like all out war. I guess I just feel bad for as long as everybody who worked on this film got paid, good for them. I'm cool. But I guess I still feel bad for the people that went out and paid money to see this. Like, my neighbor took his whole family out to this thing. Like, could you imagine just get in the van, kids, we're off to see Baby Geniuses. It's not the money, it's the time. You don't get it back. Don't turn into me, guys. Everybody who's watching this, please. Like, if you're thinking about doing this, just run. Run far. Run fast. All right, where am I here? I think I've covered like 5 minutes into the movie. Anyways, most of this movie is just crammed with gags that run on forever. Characters that, quite honestly, I don't even know why they're in the movie. This character, for example, is basically just in the movie to be weird. Every time he's on screen, he's got a new getup. And that's pretty much the joke. Look how weird he looks this time, everybody. Too bad it has nothing to do with the story or the plot and ultimately leads to nothing. The jokes of these babies being smart, making puns, and trying to act like adults dry up super quick, but the movie just keeps running them into the ground.
Look, I got a problem. Take off your clothes. Ooh, okay, Slick. But at least you could take me to dinner first. Oh, you comedian.
The visual effects of making the babies look like they're actually talking is pretty well done. And this is the first time it had been done in a feature film, so I have to give the movie credit for that. It's just too bad that all this was wasted on this movie. Visual effects are great, and when done properly, they can really add to a movie. And again, this effect is interesting at first, but it's not enough to carry the film. So somehow, Sylvester, that's the baby's name by the way, is able to escape again. This makes absolutely no sense, but whatever. And he ends up at the mall, and then this is when he gets mixed up with his twin brother. Oh no, I bet this is gonna lead to something big, but it really doesn't. Honestly, there's really no stakes here. It just becomes a quest to break into the facility and get back his twin brother. Then there's the big sequence in the amusement park where Sylvester starts controlling all the robots, and for some reason, all these guards are just unable to defend themselves. There's something else here about the dad understanding baby talk, but it never really becomes a big thing. And in the end, everybody is okay, even the guy who kept dressing up in these ridiculous outfits. Look! He looks like a regular kid now. I guess his character arc is complete. Trying to find the worst part of this movie is really difficult, but I would have to pick the very ending. And the reason is because the movie ends with a montage of clips from the movie. You just made it through the worst movie you've ever seen, and then they put you through it again. The feeling of despair and hopelessness is palpable. It's like the cinematic equivalent of waterboarding. You know, you feel, okay, well that might be a bit too far. Please end this movie, I beg you. Just stop the reel. I can honestly say that I genuinely hated this movie. You know, some of the movies on this show, they're bad, but they're still entertaining. And I've always felt like searching for a great bad movie is like mining for gold. You know, you got to go through a ton of crap first, but eventually you find nuggets. This was just a nugget of crap, and this was a situation unlike any other I've encountered. Seriously, the movie put me in a mood I can't even describe. You know, I hated writing this review. I know I'm gonna hate editing this video, but here's hoping that the next one, actually, in fact, why am I saying here's hoping? I know that the next one is gonna be more fun. So I hope you had fun watching me break down before your very eyes. As usual, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.